Welcome back in. I'm sure you've been following the news lately and about what's happened at Hoover. But just speaking in sports in general, sometimes things can happen on, say, a practice field, and depending on how far it goes, it could be traumatic for a particular student athlete.
And so with if it's not even sports, if it's your child goes through some kind of traumatic situation, how do you talk to them about it, and how they process it can be different for every child. UAB psychologist Dr. Josh Klapow, Tony Kurre here for our weekly segment talking about this. I'll defer to you first, just because you come at it from a psychology point of view. Kids do process, we all process things differently, right?
Absolutely, and I mean, I think part of the problem we have is this word trauma or traumatic event, because people say, well, is it really a traumatic event or not? And I can tell you this: if the event is outside the realm of what day-to-day normal experience is, then yes, it can be traumatic, but it also doesn't have to be a physical event. It can be something like being shamed. Shamed can be a psychologically traumatic event.
Which we see it on social media from kids doing it to each other all the time.
Absolutely, and again, generationally, I think we have a hard time sometimes saying, well, that happened to me, and I'm okay. And as a psychologist, I'm going to tell you two things. Number one, the research is really clear. When somebody is psychologically traumatic to you or psychologically shaming, chances are you're not going to turn out okay.
If it's ongoing.
If it's ongoing.
Yeah.
And number two, just because it happened to you and you feel like I'm fine, that may or may not play for your players or your students.
But I don't think it has to be ongoing. I think just even an isolated incident where a teacher humiliates you in front of an entire class, that could have long-term effects.
There is a very well-researched phenomenon where they ask people, can you remember the earliest memory where you were shamed? You're stupid, you're pathetic, you're any of those. And people will go back and go, yeah, I remember when I was in second grade and my teacher told me that I was dumb because I couldn't do.
And all the class heard it, and they made fun of you, and you felt that.
We are
right?
hardwired to take that to heart. Now, that doesn't mean that for the rest of your life you're going to be weak or any of those kinds of things. But I do think we have to understand, as coaches, as teachers, as parents, that kind of in-your-face and what we call shaming, where it's personal, becomes personal. Not that you didn't get a good grade, you're not doing the math right, you're not fast enough, you're not strong enough, but when you say you're slow, lazy, those kinds of things, it has a lasting impact.
The other thing we didn't have, though, back in our day was we didn't have social media.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of these trauma things that's gone viral, the virility of the situation where you have to go find it. But once someone says it's not up anymore,
it makes it go on longer.
Sure you are. You're going to find it. Sure. We did. We found
Can't
it.
Get rid of
More
it.
people have feedback on it that you're hearing.
Yeah, and
right?
it just keeps going.
It just keeps going and going and going. And I mean, there's a great chance that a lot of people know who these individuals are that were part of this particular situation, whether it's in your high school locker room or anyone else's.
But each person's individual experience is different.
Absolutely.
What somebody calls hard-nosed that they experienced when they maybe played football is different than maybe somebody else's. I will just tell you that I respected my coaches tremendously. They were hard. They would never humiliate you in front of the entire team. There are different ways to get your message across.
Well, and this is, from the psychological research, this is where, you say it's an arbitrary line. This is where we draw the line. We say you can be hard. You can have high expectations. You can be tough. But when you humiliate, when you degrade somebody, that is a line that psychologically is not healthy for the kid.
You better know what makes that player tick.
Yeah,
Because there's some players that don't handle that well at all, and some players like you do.
Janice and I were having this conversation earlier. My coach was very good at knowing which players' buttons could be pushed and which ones couldn't. And I think successful coaches see that.
Yes.
I think it maybe even in work too.
Yes.
If you yell at me or hurt my feelings, I get my feelings hurt easily. That's just the way I am. I don't respond as well as I might if you help me work through something.
And generally, not for everybody, generally that is the rule. And so my clients who are executives who have lots of power and they can yell and scream and do whatever they want, and they go, see, it works. Well, it works in the moment. You've lost trust. Your employees don't trust you. They don't confide in you. They will make things up. They will do things to protect themselves. So again, in the moment, sure, maybe it works. In the long run, most of the time it doesn't.
Again, we're speaking in general, just so people are clear. We're not pointing fingers at any particular person or situation, but great perspective this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.